The explosion lit up the evening sky over Viridian Prime like a second sun. Jiho didn't even look up from the engine he was repairing. Explosions were common these days. The war had reached every corner of the galaxy, even this forgotten trading outpost at the edge of nowhere. He wiped grease from his hands and reached for his coffee. It had gone cold hours ago, but he drank it anyway. The small repair shop was quiet except for the hum of machines and the distant sounds of the spaceport. Jiho liked it that way. Quiet meant safe. Quiet meant no one was asking questions about who he was or where he came from. The second explosion was closer. This time Jiho did look up. Through the dirty windows of his garage, he could see smoke rising from the hills beyond the port. Someone's ship had gone down hard. He went back to his work. Not his problem. The third explosion shook the building. Tools fell from their hooks on the wall. His coffee mug shattered on the concrete floor. Jiho stood up slowly, listening. Something was coming. Something fast. The front door burst open. A figure stumbled inside, barely able to stand. At first, Jiho thought it was a child. Then he saw the silver glow of her skin. The strange markings that pulsed with light along her arms. Not human. Not even close. She collapsed against his workbench, breathing hard. Her clothes were torn and burned. Blood that shimmered like mercury ran from a wound on her shoulder. She looked at him with eyes that seemed to shift colors in the dim light of the garage. "Please," she said. Her voice was clear despite her injuries. "I need help." Jiho crossed his arms. "Medical center is 3 blocks north. I fix ships, not people. They'll find me there." She pushed herself upright, wincing with pain. "I need protection. I need to get off this planet. Call the authorities. The authorities are who I'm running from." She reached into her belt and pulled out something that sparkled even in the low light. It was a crystal perfectly cut worth more than Jiho could make in 10 years. She held it out to him. "This is yours. And more, much more if you help me reach the sanctuary stations." Jiho didn't take the crystal. "Who are you?" "My name is Hana. I am." She hesitated, then lifted her chin with sudden pride despite her condition. "I am the princess of the Talveen Empire. Or I was before my uncle took the throne by force, a princess." Jiho almost smiled. "In my garage." "I know what you're thinking." Hana's voice was sharp now. "You're thinking I'm just another spoiled royal with more money than sense. You're wondering if I'm worth the trouble. You're human. Your people are strong, I've heard. But you're so young as a species, so primitive in your ways." She took a step toward him, and despite her wounds, there was grace in her movement. "I can pay you anything you want. Wealth beyond measure. Technology your people have never seen. When I reclaim my throne, I will make you a lord. Give you a planet of your own if you wish." Jiho studied her face. She was desperate, yes, but there was something else, fear. Real, honest fear. And underneath that, determination. This was someone who wasn't used to running, to begging, someone who had lost everything. "Can you defend me, human?" Hana asked, and there was doubt in her voice. She was asking, but she clearly didn't believe the answer would be yes. Jiho was about to say no, about to point her to the door and get back to his quiet life. Then he heard them. Voices outside. Hard boots on pavement. The metallic click of weapons being armed. "How many are after you?" he asked quietly. "I don't know. Many. My uncle sent the best. Get behind the workbench. Don't make a sound." Hana opened her mouth to argue, but something in Jiho's eyes made her stop. She moved to where he pointed, crouching low. Jiho walked to the front of the garage, calm and unhurried. He picked up a wrench from a tool cart, tested its weight in his hand. The front door exploded inward. 3 figures rushed in, armed with plasma rifles that hummed with deadly energy. They wore black armor that covered them from head to toe. "Professional soldiers, killers, where is she?" the first one demanded. His weapon was pointed directly at Jiho's chest. "Who?" Jiho asked. "Don't play stupid, human. The Talveen princess. Her escape pod crashed near here. We tracked her to this location. Haven't seen any princess." Jiho shrugged. "Just me and my engines." The soldier took a step forward. "We can do this the easy way or the hard way. Your choice." "I choose the third way," Jiho said and moved. He was fast, faster than any human should be. The wrench left his hand like a missile, striking the first soldier's weapon hard enough to knock it from his grip. Before the other 2 could react, Jiho was already moving. He grabbed a canister of coolant from the workbench and threw it at the second soldier's feet. It exploded in a cloud of freezing vapor. The third soldier managed to fire. The plasma bolt went wide, melting a hole in the wall. Jiho was already behind him. He struck hard and precise, and the soldier dropped without a sound. The second soldier burst from the vapor cloud, swinging his rifle like a club. Jiho ducked under it, grabbed the man's arm, and used his own momentum against him. There was a crack, and the soldier screamed. Jiho finished it with a quick strike to the neck. The first soldier had recovered his weapon. He aimed it at Jiho, finger on the trigger. Then he stopped. His eyes went wide. He made a choking sound and fell forward. Behind him, Hana stood holding a piece of broken pipe, her hands shaking. "I told you to stay hidden," Jiho said. "He was going to kill you." "No, he wasn't." Jiho checked each soldier, making sure they were unconscious. He took their weapons, their communication devices, anything useful. They were the first wave. "More will come," Hana stared at him. "You moved like... I've never seen a human move like that. You've probably never seen a human fight before." Jiho started gathering supplies, throwing them into a bag. "We need to leave now. They'll track their team here within minutes." "Who are you?" Hana asked. "You're not just a mechanic. Right now, I'm someone who just made a very stupid decision." Jiho looked at her directly. "You asked if I could defend you. The answer is yes. But if you're coming with me, you do exactly what I say when I say it. No arguments. No princess attitude. Understood?" Hana nodded slowly. For the first time since she'd stumbled into his garage, she saw something in this human that made her believe she might actually survive. He wasn't like the others of his species she'd met. There was something different about him. Something dangerous. "My ship is out back," Jiho said, leading her toward a hidden door. "It's not fancy, but it's fast. The sanctuary stations are 3 days away if we're lucky. If we're not lucky, we'll be dead by morning." "Those are not encouraging odds," Hana said. Jiho actually smiled at that. "Princess, where I come from, those are the best odds we ever get." They left the garage behind, slipping into the darkness. Behind them, more soldiers were already arriving. But by the time they broke down the door, Jiho and Hana were gone, lifting off into the night sky in a ship that moved like a shadow. Hana watched the human pilot his vessel through the narrow spaces between buildings, avoiding detection with practiced ease. She had asked if he could defend her, now strapped into the co-pilot seat as they broke atmosphere with half the planet's security forces chasing them. She began to wonder what she had actually gotten herself into. This human was no simple mechanic, and she had absolutely no idea just how strong he really was. The ship called the Silent Echo was nothing like what Hana expected. From outside it looked like a garbage hauler, old and beaten. Inside was different. The walls were reinforced with military-grade plating. The engines hummed with power that didn't match the ship's appearance. And the cockpit had technology she recognized from warships, not cargo vessels. "You modified this yourself?" Hana asked, touching a control panel that showed 3 different sensor systems. "Mostly." Jiho didn't look away from the navigation screen. His fingers moved across the controls with quick precision. "Some parts I traded for. Some I borrowed. Some I stole." "Stole? When you're human, you learn to work with what you have." He pulled up a star map. "We're 3 days from the sanctuary stations if we take the direct route. 5 days if we go around the contested zones. The longer we take, the more danger we're in." Hana leaned closer to look at the map. "Take the direct route. The direct route goes through Talveen patrol space. Your people will be looking for you." "They're not my people anymore." Hana's voice went cold. "My uncle made sure of that when he killed my parents and took the throne." Jiho was quiet for a moment. Then he adjusted their course. "Direct route it is." The first day passed without incident. Hana spent most of it in the small medical bay, using the ship's basic supplies to treat her wounds. Her shoulder was healing faster than a human's would, but it still hurt. She caught glimpses of Jiho as he worked, always busy, always checking systems, always planning. She tried to read his thoughts. It was natural for her, as natural as breathing. Her people were telepathic. They could sense emotions, sometimes even read surface thoughts from most species. But when she reached out to Jiho's mind, she found nothing. It was like hitting a wall. Blank. Empty. Impossible. That night, if you could call it night in space, Hana found Jiho in the small galley. He was eating something that looked like dried meat and drinking water from a metal cup. "You're blocking me," she said. Jiho looked up. "What?" "My telepathy. You're blocking it. How?" "I'm not doing anything. That's impossible." Every species has thoughts I can read, at least partially. But you're completely blank. Hana sat down across from him. Are all humans like this? Some are harder to read than others, I've heard. Jiho offered her a piece of the dried meat. She shook her head. Could be training. Could be natural. Which is it for you? Does it matter? Hana studied his face. He was young for a human, maybe 30 standard years. His face was calm, but there were scars. One along his jaw. Another on his hand. Old injuries well healed. Fighter's marks. Tell me about Earth, she said instead. Jiho smiled a little. What do you want to know? Everything. I've never been there. I've met humans before, traders and diplomats, but they were always so formal, careful. You're different. Earth is... Jiho paused, thinking. It's a young world. We only reached the stars 70 years ago. Most species had space travel for thousands of years before they met others. We did it in less than a century after we discovered the possibility. Because you had to, Hana said. I read about it. The Krill found Earth first. They wanted to claim it. They wanted to claim us, Jiho corrected. There's a difference. They saw humans as resources, workers, slaves. They didn't expect us to fight back. But you did. We did. Jiho's voice was flat. We fought for 15 years. We lost billions. But we won. How? The Krill had superior technology, superior numbers, superior everything. Jiho looked at her directly. We learned. We adapted. We refused to quit. That's what humans do, Princess. We survive. The second day brought trouble. The ship's sensors detected a patrol fleet ahead. 6 Talvine warships arranged in a search pattern. There was no way around them. They're scanning every vessel, Hana said, reading the sensor data. Looking for me. Can you hide yourself? Change your appearance? No, my people don't have that ability. Jiho thought for a moment. Then he smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Then we go through them. Through them? That's insane. Probably. Jiho started plotting a course. Hold on to something. He took the ship toward an asteroid field that bordered the patrol zone. The asteroids were huge, some bigger than cities spinning slowly in the darkness. Jiho flew into them without hesitation. What are you doing? Hana gripped her seat as an asteroid passed close enough to scrape the shields. Hiding in plain sight. Jiho's hands moved fast over the controls. The ship twisted and turned between rocks that would have crushed them instantly if he made one mistake. The patrol ships are too big to follow us here. They'll have to go around, and if we hit something, then you should have taken the long route. Hana wanted to argue, but the words died in her throat as she watched him fly. He wasn't just good. He was incredible. He moved the ship through gaps that looked too small, timed his burns perfectly to avoid collisions, used the asteroid's gravity to sling them forward faster than the engines alone could manage. Where did you learn to fly like this? Hana asked when they finally emerged on the other side of the field. The patrol ships left far behind. The war, Jiho said simply. Before Hana could ask more, alarms screamed. 3 ships had appeared on sensors coming fast. Not Talvine warships. These were smaller, faster, fighter craft. Bounty hunters, Hana said, reading the identification codes. My uncle must have put out a reward. How much? Does it matter? I like to know what I'm worth. Jiho brought the weapon systems online. Stay in your seat. The hunters opened fire immediately. Plasma bolts lit up the space around them. Jiho rolled the ship hard, avoiding the first wave. Then he did something Hana never expected. He turned the ship around and flew directly at the hunters. You're flying toward them, Hana shouted. They won't expect it. Jiho's voice was calm, focused. His fingers danced across the weapons controls. Most pilots run when they're outgunned. That's why most pilots die. The hunters scattered as the silent echo came at them. Jiho targeted the first one, fired a burst from his cannons. The hunter's shields flared and died. Another burst and the ship was spinning away, engines dead. The second hunter tried to flank them. Jiho saw it coming. He cut the main engines, used maneuvering thrusters to spin the ship in place, and fired as the hunter crossed their nose. Direct hit. The hunter exploded in a ball of fire. The third hunter was better. He stayed back, taking careful shots, trying to wear down their shields. Jiho didn't chase him. Instead, he flew back into the asteroid field. You're using the rocks, Hana realized. I'm using everything I have. Jiho timed it perfectly. As they flew past a massive rotating asteroid, he cut power and let the ship drift. The hunter followed, focused on the kill. He didn't see the asteroid's rotation bringing a huge spike of rock into his path. By the time he did, it was too late. The hunter smashed into it at full speed. Silence returned. Hana sat in her seat, breathing hard. Jiho was already checking systems, calm as if nothing had happened. "You said humans learn and adapt," Hana said slowly. "Is that what you were doing? Using tactics they didn't expect? It's what kept us alive during the war." Jiho set course for the sanctuary stations again. The Krill had better weapons, better ships, better everything. But they fought the same way every time. We learned to use that against them. Hana looked at this human with new eyes. She had grown up among warriors, soldiers trained from birth to fight. She had seen the best fighters in the galaxy. But this man, this human from a young species that barely knew the stars, had just defeated 3 experienced hunters without even seeming worried. "Jiho," she said quietly, "what did you do during your war?" He didn't answer for a long time. When he did, his voice was distant, like he was remembering something he wanted to forget. "I survived, Princess. That's all." But Hana knew it was more than that, much more. And as they flew through the darkness toward safety, she began to realize that when she asked if he could defend her, she had asked the right person. She just had no idea how right. On the 3rd day, as they approached neutral space, Hana received a message on the encrypted resistance channel. Her people, the ones still loyal to the true throne, were gathering. They had a base. They had hope. And now they had something else. They had heard rumors of the princess traveling with a human warrior, a human who fought like a ghost, who protected her against impossible odds. Hana looked at Jiho, who was sleeping in the pilot's chair, finally resting after 3 days of constant vigilance. She wondered who he really was, what he had done during the war that made him fly and fight like no one she had ever seen. She would find out soon. The sanctuary stations were just ahead, and with them, the next chapter of her fight to reclaim her throne. But for the first time since her world had fallen apart, Hana felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. She felt hope. The resistance base was hidden inside a moon of Tarthos, carved into the rock over years of secret preparation. Ships came and went through concealed hangar doors. Inside, hundreds of Talveen worked, preparing for the day they could take back their homeworld from the usurper. Hana felt relief as the silent echo landed. She was among her own people again, safe, or as safe as anyone could be in a war. Jiho powered down the ship's systems and stood, stretching muscles tired from days of flying. "Stay close to me," Hana said as they walked down the loading ramp. "Some of my people might not trust a human. Most people don't," Jiho said. The hangar was busy with activity, ships being repaired, supplies being loaded. Talveen in resistance uniforms stopped what they were doing to stare as Hana appeared. Then someone shouted her name, and suddenly she was surrounded. People bowing, people crying, people reaching out to touch her as if they couldn't believe she was real. A tall Talveen man pushed through the crowd. He wore a commander's insignia, and his face showed both relief and joy. "Hana," he said, and pulled her into a hug. "We thought you were dead." "Nearly was, Minho." Hana hugged him back. "Many times." Minho pulled back and looked at Jiho. His expression changed from joy to suspicion. "And this is?" "This is Jiho. He saved my life. Multiple times. A human." Minho didn't make it sound like a compliment. "A human who got me here alive when no one else could," Hana said firmly. "He deserves our respect." Before Minho could respond, another figure appeared. A female Talveen, older than the others, with gray marking her skin where youth had once been silver. She wore no uniform, but everyone moved aside for her. Her eyes locked on Jiho, and she went very still. "Yuna?" Hana asked. "What's wrong?" Yuna walked slowly toward Jiho, studying his face. "I know you," she said quietly. "I've seen your face before. In intelligence reports, during the Krill War." Jiho said nothing. "You were part of Wraith Squadron." Yuna's voice was barely a whisper now. "Wraith 7, the ghost of Krill Prime." The hangar went silent. Everyone was listening now. Minho laughed. "That's impossible." The Wraith Squadron was a legend. A story the humans told to scare the Krill. "It wasn't a story," Yuna said. She never looked away from Jiho. "I was a military observer during that war. I saw the reports. Wraith Squadron was real. 12 human soldiers who changed everything." "Tell them," Jiho said to Yuna, "since you know so much." Yuna took a breath. The Krill had invaded Earth. They outnumbered human forces 100 to 1. They had better weapons, better ships, better everything. Humanity was losing. Then Wraith Squadron appeared. 12 soldiers trained in tactics no one had seen before. They didn't fight like normal soldiers. They fought like shadows. Like ghosts, she turned to address the crowd. They sabotaged Krill supply lines, destroyed communication networks, assassinated key commanders. They made an army of millions afraid of 12 humans. And then came the siege of Krill Prime, the turning point of the war, Minho said softly. The Krill sent their entire invasion fleet back to defend their homeworld. Yuna continued. But Wraith Squadron was already there. 12 humans held the primary defense station for 6 days against an entire army. They couldn't be killed. They couldn't be stopped. Every time the Krill thought they had them trapped, the humans appeared somewhere else. By the time the Krill gave up, they had lost thousands of soldiers. To 12 humans, Hana stared at Jiho. Is this true? Jiho's face was blank. We did what we had to do. What happened to the rest of your squad? Yuna asked. Dead, all of them. Jiho's voice was flat. I'm the only one left. And after the war? Minho asked. Why are you here fixing ships on a forgotten outpost instead of being a hero on Earth? Because I'm done being a hero. Jiho looked at each of them. I did my part. I fought my war. I just want to be left alone. But you helped the princess, Yuna said. Why? Jiho was quiet for a moment. Because she asked. And because sometimes the right thing is worth coming out of retirement for. Minho stepped forward, and this time, there was respect in his eyes. Then we are honored to have you, Wraith 7. Your reputation is legendary. My name is Jiho, he said firmly. Wraith 7 died with the rest of the squadron. The crowd began to disperse, talking excitedly. A member of Wraith Squadron was among them. A legend, a warrior who had defeated an army. Hana saw the hope in their faces and understood. Symbols mattered in war, and Jiho, whether he wanted to be or not, was a powerful symbol. Minho led them deeper into the base to a command center carved from the rock. Maps of Talveen space covered the walls, reports scattered across tables. This was where the resistance planned its survival. Your uncle has consolidated power, Minho explained, showing Hana the latest intelligence. He controls the military, the government, everything. But there are still those who remain loyal to the true throne. To you, how many? Hana asked. Thousands, maybe tens of thousands, spread across the empire, hiding, waiting for a chance to strike back. Not enough, Jiho said, studying the maps. Not even close. We know. Minho's shoulders sagged. Your uncle commands millions. We're just trying to survive until alarms cut him off. Red lights flashed throughout the base. A voice over the speakers shouted a warning. Breach in Section 7. Imperial assassins. The princess is the target. Jiho moved instantly. He grabbed Hana's arm and pulled her away from the door, just as an explosion tore through it. Smoke and fire filled the command center. Through it came figures in black armor, weapons raised. Minho drew his sidearm and fired. One assassin fell. The others kept coming. Yuna was shouting orders, trying to organize a defense. But these weren't ordinary soldiers. They moved with precision, with purpose. They had one target. Hana Jiho pushed Hana behind a heavy table and faced the assassins. He had no weapons, no armor. Just his hands and his training. The first assassin raised his rifle. Jiho closed the distance before he could fire, grabbed the weapon and used it to strike the man's helmet hard enough to crack it. The assassin dropped. The second came from the side. Jiho ducked under his blade, struck his knee, then his throat. The assassin made a choking sound and fell. But more were coming, too many. The base was being overrun. We need to evacuate, Minho shouted, firing his weapon until it ran dry. Get the princess to the ships. No, Hana stood up. I won't abandon. An explosion threw her back. The wall behind her collapsed. Through the gap, more assassins appeared. Minho threw himself between them and Hana, firing with a weapon he'd grabbed from a fallen soldier. He hit 2 of them. The third shot him in the chest. Minho! Hana screamed. Jiho was already moving. He took Minho's weapon, checked the charge, and started firing. But his style was different. Every shot was precise. Every movement calculated. He wasn't just fighting. He was dancing through a battle he had fought 1,000 times before. An assassin came at him with a blade. Jiho sidestepped, let the blade pass close enough to cut his sleeve, then struck the man's wrist and took the weapon. Now armed with both gun and blade, he became something else. Something terrifying. Hana watched in shock as Jiho moved through the assassins like they weren't even there. He shot one while kicking another, slashed a third while dodging a fourth's attack. He used their own teammates as shields, their own weapons against them. It was brutal, efficient, and absolutely unstoppable. Within minutes, the command center was silent except for the moans of wounded. Every assassin was down. Jiho stood in the center, breathing hard, covered in blood that wasn't his own. Hana ran to Minho. He was dying. She could see it in his eyes, feel it in the way his life force was fading. He looked at her and tried to smile. "Keep fighting," he whispered. Then he was gone. Hana felt tears on her face. Minho had been her friend since childhood. He had protected her when she had nothing, and now he was dead because she had come here. Jiho knelt beside her. "We have to go." This was just the first wave. "More will come. He died for me. He died fighting for something he believed in. That's more than most people get." Jiho helped her stand. "Honor him by surviving. By winning. By making his sacrifice mean something." Yuna appeared, leading a group of resistance fighters. "The base is compromised. We're evacuating everyone." "Where will you go?" "Somewhere they won't expect," Jiho said. "Somewhere we can plan our next move." Hana looked at him. Really looked at him. This man who had claimed to be just a mechanic. This warrior who had fought impossible odds and won. This legend who wanted only to be left alone but kept fighting anyway. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I'm sorry I brought you back into this." Jiho met her eyes. "You didn't bring me back, Princess. I chose to come, and I'll choose to stay until this is finished." As they ran for the ships, as the base collapsed around them, Hana understood something important. She had asked if this human could defend her. She had doubted. She had questioned. But now she knew the truth. Jiho wasn't just capable of defending her. He was capable of taking on an empire, and somewhere deep inside that terrified her almost as much as it gave her hope. The news spread across the galaxy within hours. Princess Hana, the true heir to the Talveen throne, was alive. She was fighting back, and she had a human warrior at her side. A legend from the Krill War Emperor Taeyang, Hana's uncle, responded with rage. He broadcast a message to every corner of Talveen space. A bounty, the largest ever offered. 50 million credits for Hana, dead or alive. Anyone who helped her would be considered a traitor and executed. The resistance scattered after the base attack. Small cells hiding on different worlds, waiting for orders. Hana and Jiho moved constantly, never staying in one place longer than a day. They slept in the silent echo, always ready to run. But running wasn't enough anymore. Hana knew it. Jiho knew it. If they wanted to win, they had to fight back. They were hiding on a small mining colony when Jiho started training her. The colony had an old warehouse, abandoned when the mines dried up. Inside, surrounded by rusted equipment and broken crates, Jiho taught Hana what he knew about survival. "You're strong," Jiho said, watching her try to throw a punch. "But you don't know how to use your strength." Hana tried again. Better, but still wrong. "I was trained in diplomatic arts, not combat. My people have telepathy. We don't usually need physical fighting. Your telepathy doesn't work on everyone, and it definitely doesn't stop bullets." Jiho adjusted her stance. "Again, this time don't think about hitting me. Think about where you want your fist to be and let your body follow." They trained for hours each day. Jiho taught her how to move, how to read an opponent, how to use whatever was around her as a weapon. He taught her that fighting wasn't about being the strongest. It was about being smarter, faster, more willing to do what needed to be done. "During the war," Jiho said one evening as they rested, "we learned something important. Power doesn't win battles. Determination does. The Krill had all the power, but humans had something they didn't understand." "What?" Hana asked, wiping sweat from her face. "We refused to break." Jiho looked at his hands, scarred and worn. "They could beat us, they could kill us, but they couldn't make us quit. That's true strength, Princess. Not power, not abilities. Just the will to keep going when everything tells you to stop." Hana thought about his words as they planned their next move. The resistance needed supplies, weapons, a way to hit back at the Empire. Jiho suggested they attack Imperial supply convoys. Hit and run. Guerrilla warfare, the tactics that had won the Krill War. Their first attack came 3 days later. An Imperial convoy carrying weapons through an asteroid belt. 5 transport ships, guarded by 2 warships. Normally, suicide to attack. But Jiho had a plan. They waited until the convoy was deep in the belt, surrounded by rocks and debris. Then the silent echo appeared, shields down, engines cold. Just another piece of space junk drifting in the dark. The convoy passed close. Too close. That's when Hana used her telepathy. She reached out to the transport crews, found their fear, their doubt, and amplified it. Suddenly the convoy crews thought they saw enemies everywhere. Phantom ships in the asteroids, weapons locking on. They panicked. In the chaos, Jiho brought the ship to life. They struck fast and hard, disabled the warship's engines with precise shots, boarded one of the transports while the others fled in confusion, took what they needed and vanished before the Empire could respond. It was a small victory, but it was a victory, and it was the first of many. Over the next weeks, they hit the Empire again and again. Destroyed supply depots, sabotaged communication stations, rescued resistance fighters from prison transports. Every attack was carefully planned, perfectly executed. Jiho's tactics combined with Hana's telepathy made them unpredictable, unstoppable. The Empire tried everything. They sent hunter squads. Hana and Jiho ambushed them. They set traps. Hana sensed them coming. They tried to track the silent echo. Jiho used tricks he'd learned during the war, making the ship's signature change, disappear, reappear somewhere else. Word spread. The resistance grew bolder. More cells came out of hiding. More worlds began to question Emperor Taeyang's rule. How could he claim to be strong when he couldn't stop one princess and one human? One night, after a particularly difficult mission, Hana found Jiho on the ship's observation deck. He was staring out at the stars, quiet and distant. She sat beside him. "Are you okay?" she asked. "Just thinking." "About what?" Jiho was quiet for a long time. "During the war, I lost everyone I cared about. My squadron, my friends. I thought when it ended I could finally rest. Finally be done with death and fighting." "I'm sorry," Hana said softly. "I brought you back into this." "No." Jiho shook his head. "I came back because I wanted to. Because when I saw you in my garage, desperate and hunted, I saw something I'd forgotten." "What?" "Purpose." He looked at her. "During the war we fought because we had to. We fought to survive. But you, princess, you're fighting for something better. You're fighting to save your people, to bring back justice, to make things right. That's worth fighting for." Hana felt something stir in her chest, something warm and complicated. "I couldn't do any of this without you." "Yes, you could." Jiho smiled slightly. "I'm just teaching you what you already have inside you. The strength to never give up. You're more like a human than you know." She laughed at that. Then, without thinking, she leaned against him. Jiho tensed for a moment, then relaxed. They sat there in comfortable silence, watching the stars drift by. The moment was broken by an urgent message from Yuna. Her face appeared on the screen and she looked frightened. "Hana, we've received terrible news. The Emperor is planning an execution. All the remaining members of the royal court who refused to support him. All the nobles who spoke against his coup. He's going to kill them all in a public ceremony, broadcast across the Empire." "When?" Hana demanded. 3 days. On the homeworld, in the Grand Plaza. Hana felt cold. Those were her people. Friends, advisors, family members who had survived the coup, and Taeyang was going to murder them to prove his power. "It's a trap," Jiho said immediately. "He knows you'll try to stop it. He's counting on it." "I don't care." Hana stood up. "I can't let them die. You'll die too. And then the resistance dies with you. Then what do I do? Hide while good people are executed because of me?" Jiho stood and faced her. "No, we go. We save them. But we do it smart. We do it the human way." "Which is?" "We don't do what he expects. We don't play by his rules. We make our own. Jiho brought up tactical displays. He wants you to attack the plaza, try to fight through his forces, get yourself killed. So instead, we're going to infiltrate the palace before the execution, get the prisoners out, then broadcast your message to the entire empire while he's watching. That's impossible. Good. Then he won't see it coming. Over the next 3 days, they planned. Jiho called in favors from contacts he'd made during the war. Yuna gathered intelligence about the palace defenses. Hana reached out to the scattered resistance, asking for anyone who could help. A small team assembled, 10 volunteers willing to risk everything. They all knew it was almost certainly a suicide mission, but they believed in Hana. And after seeing what she and Jiho had accomplished, they believed it might just be possible. On the night before they left, Hana couldn't sleep. She found Jiho checking weapons in the cargo bay. "Are you scared?" she asked him. "Terrified," he said honestly. "I've been terrified since we started this. Fear is normal. How do you keep going when you're afraid?" Jiho looked at her. "I think about what happens if I don't. I think about people like your uncle winning, people who hurt others to gain power. That scares me more than dying." Hana stepped closer. "If we don't survive tomorrow, we will. But if we don't, I want you to know something." She took a breath. "You've given me more than just protection. You've given me hope. You've shown me that even when everything seems impossible, there's still a chance. You've made me stronger." Jiho set down the weapon he was holding. "You were always strong, Hana. You just needed someone to remind you." They stood close, and for a moment the war disappeared. There was just the two of them, two people who had found each other in the darkness. Hana wanted to say more, wanted to tell him how she felt. But there would be time for that later, if they survived. "Let's go save some lives," Jiho said, and his smile was confident despite the fear in his eyes. Hana smiled back. "The human way. The only way we know." As they prepared for the mission that would decide everything, Hana realized something. She had asked Jiho if he could defend her, doubting his strength. Now she knew the truth. His strength wasn't just in how he fought. It was in how he refused to give up, how he turned impossible situations into victories, how he made others believe they could do the impossible too. Tomorrow they would face an empire. Tomorrow they would risk everything. But for the first time since her world had fallen, Hana truly believed they could win. The Grand Plaza of Talveen Prime was filled with thousands of people. They had come to watch the execution, forced by imperial decree. Cameras captured everything, broadcasting the scene across the empire. Emperor Taeyang wanted everyone to see what happened to those who opposed him. On the stage, 20 prisoners knelt in chains, nobles, advisors, military officers who had remained loyal to the true throne. Behind them stood executioners, weapons ready. Taeyang himself sat on a throne overlooking the plaza, his face showing satisfaction. But beneath the plaza, in the ancient maintenance tunnels that ran under the palace, Jiho and his team were already inside. The tunnel maps were accurate, Yuna whispered, checking her scanner. "We're directly under the holding cells." "Defenses?" Jiho asked. "Heavy. Guards at every entrance, sensors everywhere. They're expecting an attack." "Good. Then they'll be looking in the wrong direction." Jiho turned to Hana. "Are you ready?" Hana nodded. She wore simple clothes, nothing that marked her as royalty. But inside, she felt like a queen. "Let's save my people." The team split up. Half went with Yuna to create a distraction. The other half stayed with Jiho and Hana, moving through the tunnels toward the cells. They encountered the first guards at a checkpoint. Before the guards could raise an alarm, Jiho was among them. Silent, efficient, deadly. Within seconds, the guards were unconscious. "You make it look easy," one of the resistance fighters whispered. "It's not," Jiho said, already moving to the next obstacle. "It just has to look that way." They reached the cells. The locks were complex, but Yuna had provided codes stolen from palace systems. The doors opened. Inside, they found the prisoners who weren't at the execution. Servants, staff members, anyone connected to the royal family. all scheduled to die after the public executions. Princess? One of them gasped, seeing Hana. Quiet, Hana said. We're getting you out. Follow exactly what we say. Above them, the execution ceremony was beginning. Taiyang stood, addressing the crowd. His voice boomed through speakers. These traitors chose to support a weak dead line rather than embrace strength. Today they pay the price. Let this be a lesson to all who would oppose the new empire. The executioners raised their weapons. The crowd watched in fearful silence. Then, just as the order to fire was about to be given, every screen in the plaza flickered. The broadcast changed. Hana's face appeared. She stood in what looked like a throne room, though it was actually a storage room they'd converted. Behind her, the freed prisoners stood tall. She looked directly into the camera, directly at her uncle. People of Talveen, Hana said, her voice clear and strong. I am Princess Hana, your rightful ruler. The man on that throne murdered my parents. He seized power through violence and fear, but I am here to tell you that his reign ends today. In the plaza, chaos erupted. Guards rushed to find the source of the broadcast. Taiyang screamed orders. But the signal was routed through a dozen different systems, impossible to trace quickly enough. My uncle believes in strength through domination, Hana continued, but I've learned something from an unlikely teacher. A human showed me that true strength isn't about power. It's about refusing to break. It's about protecting those who cannot protect themselves. It's about fighting for what's right, even when victory seems impossible. In the tunnels, Jiho was leading the prisoners toward the escape route, but palace guards had discovered them. A full squad, heavily armed, blocked their path. Wraith 7, the squad leader said, recognizing Jiho. Surrender. You can't fight all of us. No, Jiho agreed. But I don't have to fight all of you. Just long enough. He moved. The guards opened fire, but Jiho was already elsewhere. He used the tunnel walls, the low ceiling, the confined space to his advantage. In the open, the guards would have overwhelmed him. Here, they got in each other's way. Jiho took them down one by one, using their own confusion against them. One guard got past him, aimed at the prisoners. Hana stepped forward and used her telepathy, flooding the guard's mind with fear. He dropped his weapon and fled. Together, she and Jiho held the line until Yuna appeared with reinforcements. The escape ships are ready, Yuna said. But the plaza is surrounded. We'll never get everyone out. Yes, we will. Jiho checked his weapon. Because I'm not leaving with you. What? Hana grabbed his arm. No. We do this together. Someone needs to hold off the guards long enough for you to escape. Someone needs to make sure Taeyang doesn't stop the broadcast. Jiho looked at her and his eyes were gentle. It has to be me. You'll die. Maybe. But I've been ready to die since the war ended. The only thing I wasn't ready for was finding something worth living for. He touched her face softly. You gave me that, Hana. You gave me a reason to fight again. Now let me finish the fight. Tears ran down Hana's face. You promised to defend me. And I will. By making sure you survive this. By making sure you win. Jiho smiled. Now go be the queen your people need. Before Hana could argue more, Yuna pulled her away. The prisoners were moving toward the ships. Hana looked back once and saw Jiho standing alone in the tunnel, ready to face an army. Above, in the plaza, Hana's broadcast was ending. I ask you all to stand with me, not because I command it, but because it's right. Together we can build something better than fear and tyranny. Together, we can be strong. Taeyang finally shut down the broadcast. His face was purple with rage. Find them all and kill them. Imperial soldiers flooded into the palace. They found the tunnels. They found Jiho. He fought like he had during the siege of Krill Prime, like he had 1,000 times before, using every trick, every tactic, every skill he possessed. He turned the tunnels into a maze, set traps with equipment lying around, made the soldiers afraid to advance, made them hesitant, made them slow. He fought for hours, one man against hundreds. He shouldn't have survived 5 minutes. But he did. Because that's what humans do. They survive. Finally, exhausted and wounded, Jiho found himself in the throne room, the same room where Hana had filmed her broadcast. Taiyang was there, waiting. The Emperor had come personally, wanting to kill the human who had dared to challenge him. "You're the one," Taiyang said, "the human who turned my niece against me, the warrior who thinks he can defeat an empire." Jiho raised his weapon. It was nearly out of charge. He could barely stand. But he stood anyway. "I don't need to defeat an empire. I just need to give one princess enough time to escape. She'll die anyway. I'll hunt her across the galaxy." "No, you won't." Jiho smiled through the blood on his face. "Because you made a mistake. You underestimated her. Just like you underestimated me. Just like everyone underestimates humans." Taeyang activated his personal shields and advanced weapons. He was a trained warrior himself, enhanced with the best technology. He should have crushed Jiho easily. But Jiho had fought stronger opponents. Faster opponents, better armed opponents. And he'd won. Not because he was stronger, but because he refused to lose. The fight was brutal. Taeyang's weapons and shields against Jiho's experience and determination. The throne room was destroyed around them. Jiho was wounded again and again, but each time he got back up. Each time he kept fighting. "Why won't you die?" Taeyang screamed. "Because I made a promise," Jiho said. "And humans keep their promises." He saw his opening. Taeyang had grown overconfident, aggressive. He left a gap in his defense. Jiho took it. One strike, perfectly placed. Taeyang's shield generators shattered, another strike, and the Emperor fell. Jiho stood over him, weapon ready. He could kill him, should kill him, but he lowered his weapon. "That's not my choice to make. That's Hana's." Palace guards burst in. They saw their Emperor defeated, the human still standing. For a moment, no one moved. Then, slowly, the guards lowered their weapons. It wasn't loyalty to Taeyang. It was recognition. This human had defeated their Emperor in single combat. In Talvine culture, that meant something. Outside the palace, the people had seen the broadcast. They had heard Hana's words. And now, news was spreading that the Emperor had fallen, that the human warrior had won. The people began to rise, not with violence but with voices. They filled the streets chanting Hana's name. The military, seeing which way the tide was turning, began to stand down. Taeyang's coup was over. 3 days later, Hana returned to Talvine Prime. Not as a fugitive, but as a queen. The people celebrated in the streets. The resistance came out of hiding. And in the palace, Jiho waited for her. He was in a medical center recovering from his wounds. Hana rushed to his bedside. "You're alive," she said, relief flooding through her. "Barely." Jiho tried to smile. "Turns out fighting an entire palace is bad for your health." "You idiot." Hana was laughing and crying at the same time. "You could have died. But I didn't. Humans are hard to kill." Hana took his hand. "I asked you if you could defend me. Back in your garage when I had no idea who you were or what you were capable of. I remember. I had no idea about your strength. Not really. I thought you were just a mechanic. Then I thought you were just a warrior. But you're more than that. You showed me that strength isn't about power or abilities. It's about heart, about refusing to give up, about protecting what matters, no matter the cost." Jiho squeezed her hand. "You already had all that inside you, Hana. I just reminded you. Then I'll spend the rest of my life trying to match your example." Hana leaned close. "Stay with me.